All right, welcome to another exciting episode of the Immigration Stat Us podcast. I'm your host, Myron Turner. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this is episode 5 of season 2. We have another exciting guest here with me today, Jared van der Vyver, and we are ready to go. Now, today we're going to be diving into the really touchy issue of why people are leaving either the city they're in or New Zealand altogether. I'm entitling this episode Exodus. Before we get into a special thank you to our sponsors, the Ministry of Ethnic Communities, Navigators, and the Campfire Studios, and Uranga. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get into it. So, Jared, you've been here for 21 years. Yeah? From Johannesburg, South Africa. Yeah. All right. And man, that's a journey. So how were you when you got here?
15.
15 years old.
Yeah.
All right. So what brought your family all the way to New Zealand?
My lack of employment opportunity in South Africa. Yeah. Very low employment. At that stage, we had moved out of Johannesburg, called Johannesburg East, and we had moved further into like a bit of a country land. And we used to travel into Johannesburg. My dad used to for work and stuff. And once he got made redundant from his work, he struggled to get work. And I think he struggled for a couple of years. He was reduced to having to fix cars in the garage for people from church and things like that. And it just got too tough. And eventually he said enough is enough. And we, I can't remember how he got onto the topic of New Zealand, but we basically had to go on the internet, which was still dial-up back in those days, so it took a while, and research New Zealand, where it is and what it's about and how do we get there and the whole process. And yeah.
What year is this?
This is the year 2000.
In the year 2000?
Yeah.
Wow. How old are you, Jared?
37. Yeah.
Sure?
37.
You don't seem too sure about that.
I'm not too sure, yeah.
You pull out
84.
Index card and double check.
Yeah.
37.
37.
Okay, I'm 36. So it's just funny remembering. I remember a time without the internet.
Yeah.
And just saying that is like a strange thing for people to hear now. Like I remember a time, well, if you want to know where your friends were, you just look outside and see where the bikes were.
Yeah.
If it's a pile of bikes in front of that house, that's where your friends are. Then you go get your bike and you go to that house. And it's as simple as that, we didn't text anything to anybody. You just looked outside. You actually had to physically go look. So there was no text. So I remember writing a letter to my aunt.
Yeah.
A letter. Opening the letter. Reading the letter. Excited. The letters took, 7 to 8 days to come to you from another part of the country. But nowadays, we just sound so old just talking about that type of stuff.
It's ridiculous.
Writing a letter. Like, my kids don't understand a life without having to skip the ad.
Yeah.
They can skip the ad. They can watch the show and they can skip the ad. We had to watch those commercials.
Yeah.
And he had to endure those commercials, man. Like, they don't understand that. But yeah. Sorry, when you said dial up, I just got distracted.
No.
Because I thought about a time where you had to do that. See, some people don't know what we're talking about.
Dial up, go away, make some food, come back. Yeah, get on the internet. Someone picks up the phone and you get kicked off and start again.
Even worse, if there's a thunderstorm, just give up because you're not going to do anything on that computer if there's lightning and thundering outside. Just forget about it. Just give up. Or play solitaire until...
Solitaire.
You play solitaire until you can get back to it.
That's right.
But anyway, all right, so... But still, like, why New Zealand? Like, what made your family? I know it was a lack of employment opportunities at the time, but New Zealand, like, who came up with the idea to migrate all the way here?
I struggle to remember. I mean, a few key elements was probably that it's still Southern Hemisphere, still have lots of sunny months in the year, similar to South Africa. Speaking English, first language is another factor. So it's all those things that make an easy transition. And New Zealand was one of the easier countries to get into at that point. We were on the point system back then. I don't know if they still run that system, but...
Nah, I think they got rid of the point system.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
But, it was Australia was 5 or 6 points more at that stage, and I think we wouldn't have qualified for Australia. If we did, it would have been a real tight squeeze. But New Zealand was just achievable. So
I think you came over here with your entire family, obviously your mother, your dad, and
my father here is my stepfather. So my biological father's still over there in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
So that's all we came with, and we've got a little bit more family now. We've got my stepfather's cousin live here now, a couple of cousins. So slowly growing, but majority of my other family still live in South Africa or a couple in the UK and dotted here and there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, look, you've been here for a while. So you came in when you were 15. Yeah. So you've actually gone through a little bit of the teenage. Well, I'm not gonna say rebel, but that time when you're trying to find yourself and trying to figure out who you are, what type of man you're gonna be. Before you were legally able to drink, you were here. So do you have any like highlights too that you can remember about that time?
I was excited to come. I was also really scared. The culture change was very different. Like I came here and when I went to school in South Africa, school was strict school uniform, tie, blazer, grey socks with your long pants, polished shoes, hairstyle, wouldn't allowed your hair touching your eyebrows or your collar or over your ears, no product in it. So you're basically hairstyleless. Girls had to have they would measure the skirt length above the knee so that they're very strict on that. Came to New Zealand, went to Pakuranga College, and we just wore mufti, whatever hairstyle, whatever you wanted. The language was a little bit of a barrier. There weren't many South Africans at that stage. But it was the way Kiwis spoke to their elders here as well, which was very different. South Africans, I don't know if our parents are a lot more strict, the system's a lot more strict it's the corporal punishment they still had there, versus coming here, kids would speak very frank and however they wanted to teachers, and it was a bit of an eye-opener and shock to me,
So it was like a disrespectful thing?
I felt it was disrespectful, but a lot of the time it was just they took it as this is how it was, Man,
that's actually interesting to hear because I have been struggling with that lately, even with my own kids. But I think, would you say, is it a cultural thing? Because coming from the States, you can't just talk to people that are older than you any old type of way, especially they're in a position of authority or especially in a position of influence. Yeah. You can't just randomly, haphazardly just to say what you want. Just freedom of speech, express yourself. Like and the kids, my kids. I'm trying to figure out a way to teach them a little bit of where I come from, but at the same time, not ignore the fact that this is the culture here. Yeah. Because I hear them talking sometimes, and I'm just like, that's disrespectful. Like, but they probably don't mean it that way. They just it's more about here in New Zealand. I have learned culturally is more about your freedom to express what you feel and the freedom to be you. That's been a reoccurring thing on the podcast. Like what we've noticed in Kiwiism, it is a lot of freedom to be you, and that's the freedom that we try to protect for those of us that live here. If you want to wear a Barney as a dinosaur shirt to a funeral, then you can wear that to that funeral.
That is very much the Kiwi way. Be free to express yourself, and it may come across offensive sometimes, but I feel it works for them. You can see how successful they are in many industries around the world, like the fashion industry. My wife works in that. A lot of the top designers in the world are Kiwis. Sporting, like for a small country, we punch way above our weight, and it's a lot of odd sports, So people really are free to express themselves here. Another thing that comes to mind is South Africa is a very religiously grounded country. For example, at the beginning of school and at the end of school, there would be a prayer over the intercom, and it would all be, heads down, be respectful. If you're caught not doing that, mucking around, there'd be punishment, and it's usually quite severe. So to come from that to here, where there was no mention really of any religious stuff going on in the schools, so maybe there was also that bit of grounding in South Africa, makes you a bit more respectful.
Yeah. So you guys came over here pretty seamlessly with the immigration system at the time, on the point system at the time. It was a pretty seamless transition from South Africa to here?
I would definitely not call it seamless.
Oh, okay.
I remember my parents struggled for a long time. It was very stressful. Work visas. My dad got a work visa. I had to help out and work for the family because I could get a student visa, so I could work for a bit. We came in the month of October, so I didn't have to. They said, "Hey, don't come to school now. Start in the new year." So I ended up going to work for 2 or 3 months, and because my mum wasn't allowed to work, she had no visa or anything. So I worked off a student visa, and donated some of my income to my parents. At that age, it was a tough thing to do. All I wanted to do is go shopping and buy cool stuff, and in this new country where there was a lot of new cool things. But I'm glad I done it now. It was well worth it.
Taught you the value of hard work at a young age.
Yeah.
Like responsibility as well, because they were relying on you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they were relying on. That's actually pretty cool. Do you have any low points that you want to discuss about your transition and life in New Zealand so far?
Oh,
because it's been a long time. You got here in 15, in your 30s now.
There's definitely a few. I mean, every country has its highs and lows. Being on the topic of immigration and missing home and things like that, it's have some family members pass. It's hard not to go back and mourn with the family.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that. My dad hasn't seen his grandkids.
Jeez.
Sorry,
man. That's tough. That is tough.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you're not
he was out for the birth of our first grandkid, but I've got another couple since then, and they're all grown up, and
And then everything that's been happening with these on and off lockdowns in the past definitely made things a whole lot worse with travel.
Yeah, definitely,
travel restrictions and things like that. Sorry, man, that's really tough.
Yeah.
Sorry you had to endure that.
Yeah, no, it is really hard. And then, it's 20-odd hours flight, so for us to go back to visit with 3 kids in an aeroplane for that amount of time just seems impossible, Maybe once my baby's a little bit older, we could, have a look at that. It's also the cost is hugely expensive at the moment. Maybe once all the COVID stuff settles down and prices get, back to realistic, then, we can have a look at that or have him come over.
Yeah, that'd be good, man. That'd be good because I think you probably fall in love with New Zealand like you did.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it's one of those places that as soon as you see it, my brother came over here and literally cried at Hunua Falls.
Oh wow!
He actually teared up and because in Chicago we ain't got nothing like that,
Yeah.
Hunua Falls is probably like the least of the locations for Kiwis. For Kiwis, they're just like, oh, Hunua Falls. Why didn't you take him to the Bay of Plains? Why didn't you take him to Coromandel? Why do you Hunua Falls? That for us, that was good enough. For him, that was good enough. That was special because we don't have any falls.
Yeah.
In Chicago, we have nothing like that. We got Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
Which has been debatable for years if it's safe to be in. That's what we have. So when he saw it, he just had a moment in time where he just took it in and it got really emotional.
Yeah.
So New Zealand does that to you when you go. So I do hope that, you get a chance to get him over here and he gets a chance to experience this and reunite with the family. Yeah. That'd be so good, man.
Yeah.
That'd be so good. So do you have something as your favorite New Zealand holiday spot to visit, since we on this subject of Hunua Falls? I'm just do you have any?
None in particular. We go camping as a family and we enjoy camping, get the tents out, and we like to choose different campsites. Gives us opportunity to visit different parts of the North Island. We haven't gone to South Island yet, but we love the camping lifestyle. You kind of go there, you leave all your devices, all your electronics at home, and you kind
leave
of
all of them at home.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
What?
I mean, if we go for
even think
4 days or less, we would even go for an unpowered site. So, that also puts an interesting mix into the works, give the kids a bit of perspective, and they really thrive on it. I mean, they get there and we take their bicycles and they set up their tent and then they're gone. And then you got to go hunt them down later, and they come back with a mob of kids on bicycles and, and they're playing flashlight at 9 o'clock at night. And yeah, it's like a bit of a community camping in New Zealand.
Oh, okay. So it's other really people cool. there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a campsite with lots of caravans and tents. And
you're going to go in the middle of the forest with no phones, no GPS, and let your kids run free, and then you can try to find them.
No.
That's what I understood. But that's you basically saying this is a whole community.
Yeah. Okay. It's a campsite, so there's many people with tents, and you get your designated area and.
But still,
tents, caravans.
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's good. It's good.
I don't know. I feel like I like to think of myself as someone who's outside the box.
Yeah.
But in reality, I'll be glamping, not camping.
Yeah.
I'll be out there in the RV waving at y'all.
Yeah. I can't ever see McCausey in a tent. So
exactly. My wife would not do it, man. And unfortunately, I become like her over the. But at the time, actually, even as a little boy, I've never liked insects.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why I didn't last on the baseball team, because I was out in the outfield swinging at mosquitoes and moths. It didn't last. I had athleticism, but they were like, man, he's just out there swinging at the bugs. Every bug, any type of, like, I just lose it. Like, just trying to swat at them.
Yeah.
But nah, man, that's really cool. Like,
yeah.
And I've heard that before as well. People talk about the beauty of New Zealand and the just the overall the grandeur of it all, like being able to be here, being the wild, like we actually had a situation where I was hiking with a friend of mine, but he actually left his asthma pump in the car.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. That story was told on this podcast as well. He left his asthma pump in the car. So we were like really high up. I forgot where we were. Kitty. Do
Oh yeah.
you know what that is?
Vaguely familiar, yeah.
and I think it's more out west Luckland way or past, but way into the bush area. But anyway, I think it's called Kitty. I'm pretty sure it's called that. Yeah. But they got the hiking area and they got the water and it's nice, man. Like, but he made the mistake actually it's my fault looking back on it, because I do a lot of running and stuff, I usually run 3, 4, 5K, 6K, that's what I like to do in my spare time, exercising. So when we got to the stairs, I'm running up the stairs. I'm seeing it as an opportunity to get some steps in. He's trying to keep up with me, someone who's a non-runner.
Yeah.
Bad. Really bad. And I turn around, I'm like, come on, man, what you doing? Come on. Come on. And and look back, he's like, yeah, man. Yeah. I was like, what's going on? I didn't even know he had asthma until that day.
Yeah.
Because if I'd have known that, I would not have done that.
Yeah.
But he should have told me. But anyway, he had a full-blown asthma attack, and he was running out of. So we had to go meet the kids at the top of they had like a little waterfall. I don't know what it is, some type of area where the kids can play in the water, and we had to meet them and then take the kids all the way back down. And he's huffing, puffing, and puffing, and we're just thinking, man, we're literally losing seconds. It's like about a second. Yeah. So we're asking people on the way up, do you have an inhaler? Did anybody got an inhaler? And then finally one lady had one. Oh. Yeah. But at that point, he had already sat on the ground. And the look on his face, he was just giving up. He was like, yep, this is it. It was crazy. But in saying that, that's New Zealand. The fact that lady had an inhaler, and the fact that it's just another testament to the people of this land, and was willing to give it, in the midst of COVID times.
Yeah. Something quite personal, yeah.
in the midst of a pandemic. Like, this is the inhaler. Like, she's like, yeah, but always keep a spare anyway. I was just like, wow. Like, wow, man. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy. Another testament to New Zealand culture, the Kiwi culture. Yeah. That is definitely a positive, and I have to credit this culture for that, because that lady saved his life. Yeah. Then we were able to make it back to the car and get to his inhaler. But anyway, so do you have any specific immigration hacks that you would try to offer someone who is thinking about migrating to New Zealand, or they're already on the way, or already packed?
Not so much with the process. Once you're here, embrace the community. Join a sports team if you're able to. That's what I found really embraced me. Was I'm very sporty, so I played a lot of sports, and I was really struggling until I started playing sport. You make a lot of friends really easy playing sport. Playing rugby and cricket, a bit of indoor cricket and shorter formats of the sport, and really helped me to make friends and just figure out the Kiwi way, learn the Kiwi way, that, they're very passionate about their sports and competitive and in a healthy way. So, yeah. The
connection,
Yeah. I find a lot of the time, sometimes South Africans will come and then they'll just stick to their own. They'll come here, meet other South Africans and just go to braais and just stick with the other South Africans, and they never really get to know many other Kiwis. So, like, join a sports team where they got a good mix of all the culture and, embrace it. Everybody's lovely, and I think it's part of being a Kiwi is the diversity we have of culture. There's if you're in a room of 10 people, you probably find only 3 or 4 of them are Kiwis.
Yes.
And the rest of them are all from different nations.
Parts of the world, man. It's crazy. All right, lastly, do you have any other advice you want to give new immigrants? These are people who've actually made it in, they settled in with their family, or maybe they came alone. Any advice, further advice, I guess? You've already kind of given some, but any further advice?
No.
Oh, that's it.
Communities,
yeah, communities, everything. No, we can leave it at that. No, we can. It's really important to hone in on that, because actually, especially now more than ever. Because as you already touched on, and it is hard not being able to connect with your family overseas. So just imagine having that. And then not having a community to connect with here. And I think that's why a lot of people had the mental health issues and stuff as well they were dealing with, because there was just nobody to really connect with. It's just, it just gets really lonely in a place like this if you don't have that community. But yeah, man, thanks for that. Thank you for your immigration story. And hoping for the best for your family to be one day reunited. But for the ones that are here, man, like, just keep taking them out to the forest and leaving them there by themselves.
Life lessons. Awesome.
Okay. All right, guys, let's move to session 2. Switch it up now. All right, Jared. So, as we already discussed a little bit earlier off camera, I named this episode Exodus. For a reason. Exodus, for those of you who don't know, who've never heard of Exodus, is from the Bible, about when the children of Israel left Egypt. Exodus is the word I'm choosing to use to discuss this subject matter, because it's about a large group of people moving from one place to another, and that's exactly what's happened over the last two and a bit, 2 years now, in New Zealand, and man, I thought it'd be worth talking about. Now, I actually went and did my homework for a change instead of being overly opinionated. I actually went on, and this is from stats.govt.nz. You don't have to take my word for it. You can look it up yourself. Now, these stats that I'm going to be talking about, this is from migration statistics. So migration statistics count and describe movements of people into and out of New Zealand, international migration, and within the country, which is internal migration. So let's talk about that, man, because to be honest, it's so much to look at here. Now, over the last 2 years, we want to try to get to some type of conclusion in this conversation. And I know it's a big one. I know it's kind of hard to kind of throw you in the deep end. But I feel like you got a well-rounded view on this. You've been there since you were 15. you would have seen New Zealand go through a lot. You would have seen New Zealand go through a lot of changes. You would have experienced a lot of cultural things, a lot of New Zealand first. You would have, and still, exposed to it. It's pretty much 50% of your life. You've been here. But at the same time, you got the other 50% on the other side of the world. So it's like an evenly balanced equation there. So before we go there, let's go over some stats, and then we'll ask a few questions. So for those of you who don't think I do my research, no, just kidding. No, let's look at, so I'll look at the first column. I know you can't see the screen, but on this first column, it says the year, and then it says the migrant arrivals, and it says migrant departures. And then it's another column that says net migration. I won't be looking at the net migration one, just really comparing those two columns, migrant arrivals for that year, and then migrant departures for that year. And they even break it down month by month. Everything is pretty steady. Like I'll start from around September 2010, for example. You have more migrant arrivals at that time at 101,131 migrant arrivals, only 96,451 departures. All right, so the numbers pretty much go like that consistently, where you have more arrivals than you do departures until we get to March of 2021. That's when you see a major shift happening. March 2021, we have only 49,180 arrivals. But then for the first time in a long time, it's the migrant departures. I've risen over that. So it's 50,983. And this pretty much goes on and on all the way through. So you have every month that number of people leaving New Zealand increasing. So they even break it down. 2,000. Then the next month, another 4,000. The next month, another 6,000, 7,000. Then it goes up next month. Now we're in August 2021, 9,000. Another 9,000 in September, 10,000. Another 10,000 in November, 11,000, 13,000. This is consistent. The highest was February of this year. At that time, the poll was 48,126 migrant arrivals, but 61,743 migrant departures. Wow. All right, so that's it's a difference of 13,000. It's a lot. It's a lot, and so this is worth talking about, because for a while, it's almost like people are like, oh yeah, New Zealand is the place to be. New Zealand's where you want to go. This and this and this and that. This is the conversation within the migrant community worldwide. Yeah. But then it's now another narrative where people are fleeing New Zealand fast. Again, I know this is a touchy subject. Yeah. This is why I wanted to use this website to show that I'm not making this up. This is what's actually happening, and it's the conversation that's happening. Also, another kind of interesting part, the people who, another hot topic I was watching on the AM show the other day, they were talking about people who are nurses. Yeah. How we're short on the medical staff, and we're short, and we want to bring nurses in, migrant nurses in, but they have to go through a different process than doctors. Or doctors can get in a little bit easier than nurses. And like it's pushed back on that, and it doesn't make sense, because you got these people that want to be here but they can't be here because the immigration process doesn't really allow them to be here as quickly as they should. Then you got the people who are here who are running away. So it's just like it's a really touchy situation. Now I know that people think, oh yeah, it's mainly because at that time within the past 2 years we had the vaccine mandates, blah blah blah. But looking deeply into it and also listening to people's stories, it's not just the vaccine mandates. Yeah. I think it goes back to what you were saying about, the distance of family and the distance of not being able to be with your family in a scary time like this. Yes. So what would you want to comment on that a little bit more?
I mean, being locked away from your family indefinitely, or not knowing when, and, it's a very scary topic. Particularly, there's a lot of people who have family members that might be very ill, that they want to visit, need to take care of, look after. There could have been families like mother and father with kids separated in that time as well. So, I mean, there's the good and the bad of COVID in New Zealand and the lockdown system. We could keep it out, but we could also segregate and separate people a lot as well. And maybe people just didn't like their freedoms taken away that much. It's a bit of a hard thing to say because New Zealand probably prides themselves on people's freedoms, but in a way, that's what it was. I mean, there's probably lots of other factors that come into play with those statistics. You probably got an influx of migrants coming back to New Zealand when the COVID first started. Yes. So those numbers probably would have been a lot higher.
Yep.
And then once it settled down, they probably would have wanted to go back to wherever they were staying anyways. Might have come here, told people how better off it is there or not better off. And the big elephant in the room is the cost of living in New Zealand at the moment.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh.
Tough, man.
I am telling you, man. Yeah. Like, that's a whole another, definitely the elephant in the room because that's why I wanted to discuss this because it's easy to go ahead and point the finger and say, oh, yeah, this is because of the lockdowns. But I think it's a lot to cut into here because first of all, there's different, I don't say classes, but there's different, well, I guess we can say classes. There's a middle class, there's upper class, like on the Titanic, it's still the same, middle class, upper class, and then there's, a lower class or lower income class anyway. We're talking about income. So people in the middle to upper class, they had options. It's not like they were forced to do certain things. People with money have options. Yeah. They always have and they always will. Yeah. And the interesting thing is the option they still chose was to leave. And that is one that really, really, it's so many different like conversations we can go. I had a buddy of mine who is who's originally from California. Yeah. He actually was making six figures here in New Zealand, comfortable, more than comfortable actually. Had just bought a new house and then bought a second property. He was well on his way to be super comfortable here in New Zealand, but he still made the decision to sell both those houses and go back to America. So it wasn't really all about now with his situation. That situation was a little bit involving with the lockdowns and the mandates and stuff like that. But I know other people in similar situations where it wasn't just all about that. It's people like you say haven't been able to go to funerals, haven't been able to go to weddings, missing birthdays, births of their grandchildren, births of their daughters and stuff like this, like stuff like that. Like it's other stuff that's happening that people are tired of watching on Zoom. Yeah, like these are critical, life-changing, pivotal moments in life that people are not able to have normal experiences that they usually would. Yeah. And it was just too overwhelming. Lockdown is one thing, but to say, yeah, you actually may not ever go back. Because people were saying that, and it was like it was creating like this fear. Yeah, I don't know why people were saying that, but it happened a lot.
I think COVID was a great step back reflection time for everybody. You could step back, reflect what's really important in life.
What's really important, yeah. What's really important.
Is it the high-paying job I have over here or being with my family over there? Or is it worth working all those hours to, or do I cut back on my hours I work and spend some more time with my family? So it was a great reflecting time because, probably scared a lot of people and just made people, think about life in a different manner.
It was interesting, man. I haven't been here as long as you, but I've always seen New Zealand as like, people flock here. Like, I hate to use the whole American Mexico thing, but when I was I was born in America, raised in America, like it was always heat on the Mexican border because, it was always this big thing about Mexicans coming into America illegally and Mexican people. When I would meet them and talk to them and work with them, they would explain to me the conditions in Mexico.
Yeah.
They would tell me some parts are beautiful, but they would say overall, systematically, there's no real structure compared to here. It's more opportunity here in America.
Yeah.
So I when I moved to New Zealand, I finally had that feeling like, oh, now I understand what they meant. Because when I came to New Zealand, maybe not on the economic side, but the family and the how do I say this? Just the way of life, the quality of life that you can have here. Yeah. Man, this is bar none, man. Like to be able to go get you some chicken and just go sit on the beach. Yeah. And like nobody's gonna bother you. There's no drive-by shootings. Yeah. When you lay on the beach, you're not laying next to a used condom. You can enjoy life here. Yes. In any capacity. And it was like, so people being in recruitment, I know people are constantly applying to migrate to New Zealand. But New Zealand has always been a place people want to be. But past 2 years, the narrative changed. Finally, like the first time, like from what I've experienced, the narrative has changed. Like even from people, it's more interesting because it's coming from people that have been here for so long. Yeah, people like yourself who been here for so long. Yeah, and they're like, yeah, maybe it's time to. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like leaving?
During COVID, me and my wife had few discussions about like what would we do if certain scenarios played out. Would we go to Australia? Could we ever go back to South Africa? I mean, South Africa, we'd be very wealthy in South Africa. We could go back, sell our house, go back there, buy a mansion, have a few years of
a mansion?
Yeah, have a few years of wages, surplus. But the things you got to put up with is just not worth it over there. Like me and the family, we go to the beach nearly every day in summer. My kids love swimming in the sea and they love swimming there every day in summer. So to take that lifestyle away from them, it's not worth it.
And that's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, can you do that in Australia and the Gold Coast and stuff? You could in probably some areas, and that's probably where a lot of people are going. Affordabilities, cost of living is probably a bit better over there as well. From what I hear, I've got friends that have moved over and are fun and free. They're making it really successful for themselves. But
you pay a lot of money over there for your normal jobs.
Yeah,
like the builders over there making like 70, 80, $120 an hour.
Yeah.
And like how?
Yeah. There seems to be a bit of a leveling out of the low class to the middle class and the rich. It's not such a big gap.
Yes.
In saying that, they've got a lot more people, so they can probably afford to do that sort of thing.
I think you're onto something, Jared, because the financial piece.
Yeah.
It definitely will be a big thing. Like if you couldn't see your family, but on top of that, you're struggling financially. Yeah. It's just like, because I ain't gonna lie, I thought about it.
Yeah.
I thought about it mainly because of the money. Because I'm here with, it's just me, my wife, her mom, her sister, and my 3 kids. Yeah. That's all we got. Our little pact. We have no one else here. And it's just like, sometimes I look back and I'm like, why in the hell did I move all the way to the bottom of the earth? But I have no connections. I got connections. I got network, but I have no blood family. It's hard, man. When I talk to my brothers about it on the phone, they're like, "No, Myron, you ain't missing nothing. Stay where you are, man. Stay exactly where you are. You doing big things. Stay where you are." Like I'm like, but I miss home. Yeah, and I miss having that. It's just having that ability to go to your aunt's house, or that ability to go to a family barbecue. That vibe. Yeah, our church friends are cool. Like it's cool to have that, but to not have blood relatives around, it's tough. Especially because I tell my brothers, like, transparently, I say, like, I hate the idea of getting phone calls from you guys at random times because I always think you're gonna call me and tell me someone died. Yeah, and they did one time. They called and they told me that my brother texts me on WhatsApp, and I think he texted too fast, and he said just got shot in the head. Oh. And I thought he was doing it as a joke, right? But that's not what he was trying to say. He was trying to say Justin got shot in the head. I had a cousin named Justin. I thought he was shot. Because I texted him back. I was like, that's stupid. Because if you got shot in the head, you wouldn't be texting me.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be dead. You know, so why are you saying that? Then he's like, no, Justin just got shot in the head. Oh, yeah. You know, and I called and I was like, it was like so surreal. I was like, what? Yeah. You know?
And it's a struggle to mourn, and like there's very little closure. You can do Zoom funerals, but it's just not the same to be able to go hug the people,
bro,
and just it's tough.
I couldn't go to his funeral, but even worse than that, I think a couple of years after that, my grandmother passed away. Now, my grandmother was the backbone of the family. Mm-hmm. My grandmother was the only reason that all the family would gather at her house. We're talking about people who don't even like each other, man. They would come because she was just that magnet, that glue. Like people from all over the country. We got, because we got family in Mississippi, we got family in Texas. They would come, and it was like the backbone. Yeah. When she passed away, it still hurts to this day that I couldn't afford to go. It's not that anything was wrong with my visa. I'm a resident. Yeah. I couldn't afford. I didn't have the money. I couldn't have the money to even buy a ticket and then still pay for my kids' groceries that week. It was just like, man. So you're right. The cost of living has always been hanging over our head. And when everything happened in the past couple of years, I was thinking about, just going back home, because I know I can get a job like that. Like going back home, I got networks I got over there. But anyway, it's a very emotional topic. Do you think New Zealand is still a good place to migrate to?
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Compared to a lot of the countries in the world, I mean, like you say, that you can go to the beach every day. You can, you don't have to worry about kids snatching and drive-by shootings and all that sort of stuff. Crime definitely has picked up here recently, but in comparison to the rest of the world, it's still on a very low key. So, and there's still the opportunity to make it here in New Zealand. There's lots of employment opportunities. If you're willing to work hard and go for it, there's lots of opportunities.
So that lifestyle that we love so much and we want to protect is still very much alive.
Yeah. I do feel we're in a time where we've got to start fighting for it and working to have it back before it gets overwhelming, but it's still definitely there. And I've got faith in the Kiwi way, that they love their lifestyle and they don't want that taken away from them. And I think we're going to work hard in the next couple of years to get that back.
Yeah, but with the cost of living and with the shortage issues and the shipping issues, I mean, is it really feasible for families to still see this as a top 5 destination to migrate to?
I mean, I haven't weighed up options for around other places. Like we talk about Australia a lot, and I know a lot of South Africans use New Zealand as a stepping stone to get to Australia, because Australia's criteria is harder. So once they come here, they get your residency and then they just jump ship. And that's not an uncommon thing at all. That's been happening since we came here. I think that was on the cards for us at some stage, but we like New Zealand too much. So it is a really tough one. I mean, compared to where you're at, you got to weigh that up yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's tough. All right. Any final thoughts on this very, very touchy subject?
I think the powers to be can do a lot of things to invite more migrants over here. I know that they put the visa price up for the labor workers. If they made that easier for them, we get a lot more laborers come back. All those guys that pick our fruits and do our labor jobs and that type of thing. So there's lots of ways that politicians can do stuff to create New Zealand as a more inviting place to come,
which would in turn stimulate the economy.
Get things rolling around, and
No, you're right, man. You're right. But that's the funny thing. Like, it's really hard to have these conversations without accidentally pointing the finger. Because that actually will turn into the blame game really quickly. Yeah. And I think that's the problem when we start coming across that way, even though we don't mean to. Yeah. We start coming across that way, then the powers that be have that defensive. They want to get defensive.
Yeah.
Like, well, we are doing the best we can to make sure they know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, we talk from hindsight, so yeah. But what they've been doing isn't working, so they've got to change. That's what it boils down to. So
this is true. Yeah. Something needs to change, man, because those stats are next level. Like when I looked at it, I was shocked. I knew from conversations from people that I knew that this was happening.
Yeah.
Because we talked about people leaving New Zealand, but there's a lot of people leaving Auckland. We live in Auckland.
Yeah.
And it's just people, they might not be leaving New Zealand, but they were damn sure getting out of Auckland.
Yeah.
Just like, I gotta go. I gotta go,
And a lot of that comes down to what I was talking about, the Kiwi way. Like we like going camping. We like outdoors. We like that type of thing. When I came here from New Zealand, my dad picked us up from the airport, and I remember driving down Tirangi Road in Botany, and we drove down that road, and it was just grass. It was just open farmland, and the only thing that was there was pack and save. You drive down that road now, and it's door-to-door houses. Each house is maybe 2 meters apart, the whole way down that stretch, the whole of Tirangi Road. So that's happened in 22 years. How many people lived in those areas, Point View Drive, with nice big yards and that kind of Kiwi lifestyle living, that now, look over the backyard into someone's kitchen, and, they might not like that. They might be going out of Auckland to find back to that lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I feel like this can almost be another podcast, but I'm gonna pause us, man, because like I feel like I'll go into a whole other tangent. But thank you so much for your story, and thank you for coming on board. Like you actually shed a lot of light and gave me a lot to think about.
Cool.
Because you said some perspectives that I didn't even think about. Like Again, I'm gonna shut up because I know I'm good at restarting a conversation that we already had, so I'm not gonna do that. But no, thank you so much, man. I'll get ready to close us out. But yeah, this has been amazing. Really big, eye-opening conversation, not just because of the stats, but just because of your story and the way you've kind of just displayed what you can do as a father and a husband here in New Zealand with a family, even with the adversity and the challenges that was thrown at you, still soldiering on. Inspiration to me. So thank you, Jared van der Vyver.
Perfect. I'd like to thank you too for having me on. I'm honored to be here, and I love your little podcast, and I bless it. And I know, you're giving lots of people good voices and lots to think about, and it's going to go some distance. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir. And I also would like to thank our sponsors before we go: Ministry of Ethnic Communities, Navigators, and Campfire Studios, and Uranga. Thank you for everything you do, and we're going to be back with episode 6, our finale of the season. I'm Myron Turner. Peace.